presented by Dano Seasoning. Yum yum, get you some.
Hello and welcome into another edition of the Sun Belt Syndicate. As always, thanks to the people that help us bring this to you guys, collegefootballdogs.com. Be sure to check them out for all your articles dealing with football in a broad spectrum. I know we just had one from not this TJ on screen, but TJ Chapman, who wrote one about the G5 with a focus on the Louisiana game this week. And before we get to this TJ on screen, thanks also to our sponsors, W Energy, FanPlex Graphics, TSN Off-Road, and Dano Seasoning. Be sure to check those out in the links below for their discounts. And all right, TJ, now we get to the real TJ, the TJ.
Yeah. Or a version of TJ, anyway. I don't know if it's
there you go. We've had a lot of TJs on the show, I feel like.
Yeah, we have. Some in female form.
Some in female form. Do we?
Yeah, we had was it TJ or PJ from God, I forgot now. I forget what podcast he's from. Jeez. We had her on last season. Can't remember now.
I can't think of it either.
I don't know.
We'll run across it.
I was going to say now I have to do a deep dive and figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one more thing I do want to mention before we get rolling. I know, DJ, you are a big college basketball fan, maybe not specifically of the Sun Belt, but just in general.
Sure.
And we have some coverage because not a whole lot of writing or magazines or features come out for college basketball. I think because football's king, right? But there is something coming out called the Everything College Basketball Magazine. I've done some write-ups for the Sun Belt versions, and it's not out yet, but it is on pre-order for $15. If you go grab that now, you can get it for the $15 before it goes up to $20. I think like within a week's time or so, which I think would be like the official release date. So once it officially releases, it jumps up a little bit. So save yourself $5. Every single Division I program will be previewed. They've done the awards, preseason teams for each conference, players of the year, coach of the year, everything will be included. So if you are a college basketball fan, especially of the Sun Belt, be sure to check that out because we'll have you covered. And what's up, Artie?
What's going on?
Thanks for joining us on the show. And look, I got the Instagram comments up on time tonight. So Agent Moore says I called it USA with the belt. Yeah, that was. We'll get into that one pretty quickly here, but
yeah,
that was a shellacking, maybe, if you will.
it was right. I mean, the score isn't indicative of what that first half looked like for South Alabama. I mean, Troy just couldn't get anything going, right? They couldn't run the ball, couldn't throw the ball, really couldn't do anything. And I know we'll get a little bit deeper into this. I thought Gio had a good game. I don't think it was his best game, but he had a pretty good game. 67 rushing yards, 158 passing yards. He did pretty well, right? It was serviceable. It was a good game all around, especially defensively for South Alabama.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We can what do you want to do? You want to go into that one first? You want to go into the rankings? Because maybe we jump into that.
I already minutes.
Yeah. We pretty much wrap it up for just any other quick things on this, and then we can go use that to go into the power rankings for this week.
Yeah, for sure.
I think early on Troy's defense looked pretty good, but like you said, Gio had enough of a game, and I'll tell you what, man, there's a couple of plays where he looked like the man who used to throw you the ball in the backfield, Armonte Edwards. He's a lefty rolling out to the side, throws a beautiful spiral at one point. I can't remember who he hit. Pretty much hit him in the chest and the hands. Should have been caught. But he was about to have a hit laid on him. And I feel like he may have heard some footsteps before he completed that pass. So,
that'll happen.
Yeah.
I've been there before, for sure.
Yeah, that's true. How many did you get led into like a bad hit, even though it was a great play by the quarterback? The wide receiver also making a great play also has to pay for it in the end.
A couple times in practice, not a whole lot in the game. Once against JMU, once against LSU, my freshman year. Not really a whole lot after that. I mean, the go route, obviously you always get hit in the back after you catch the ball, but you expect that. But none that put me out of the game or knocked one out of me, nothing like that. except, like I said, the one at JMU and the one at LSU.
Nothing like the Matt Klein hit, though.
Oh, yeah, no, nothing like that. Golly, that was
the way. Yeah,
he got up though.
He did get up. That was I was shocked that he got up after that one. I honestly thought that's it. That's the game for him. He ain't coming back. And I don't know how he wasn't concussed and everything else. Actually, I guess you're probably more likely to have like a loss of breath than a concussion, maybe with how he got hit.
Right. Yeah. Get the wind out of you.
Yeah, I guess that's how it went. So yeah, we'll jump this up on stage because we've got Tori mentioning here. Troy is at the bottom. Well, they are there. They are not last place for either one of us. We actually have the last five spots are the exact same for both TJ and myself. That includes starting at number 10, ODU, Georgia State, App State, Troy, and then Southern Miss. I guess we can start there too. You want to explain maybe why, maybe from top to bottom, or from bottom to top of the 10, and then we can kind of go up from there maybe.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like you said, our top, or I guess you call them bottom 5 or 6 are the same. I mean, obviously, Southern Miss has shown us nothing. Troy has been just absolutely deplorable. I had Troy at 13 last week, so they kind of stayed where they were. I still think they can beat Southern Miss, although I do think it would be kind of a good game. Sometimes when you got two teams that are terrible, you get a good game. So that might be the case. I got they dropped the spot for me. Georgia State dropped the spot. I do think ODU head-to-head would beat Georgia State. So I'm giving them that nod. Marshall kind of went down for me. And Marshall and Arkansas State dropping is not indicative of them, right? It's what everyone else done, right? It's what South Alabama did to get to where they, to kind of where they are. So it's I think I had South Alabama last week at 10. So, them being at 7, it's not, again, it's nothing Marshall or Arkansas State did wrong. It's what Alabama State or South Alabama did right. So, and then there's we got a little bit of discrepancy in our top 7, top 6. I kind of did this based off who I think would win, right? Like not necessarily their record. Right. I think Louisiana is the class right now based on where they are. Head to head, do I think JMU is better than ULM? I don't right now. I think ULM is playing some really good football. Georgia Southern and JMU, we'll find out on Saturday, right? That'll kind of play itself out. So, and then Coastal is kind of hanging right in there. They dropped, but it wasn't because of them. It was because of ULM, right? They didn't drop because of what they did wrong. It's just ULM deserved a little bit more respect from me. And so I gave it to them. I couldn't put them at 1. I think I texted you earlier. I struggled with them kind of being at 1 based on record and based on where they are in the conference. But all things considered, I'm fairly happy with my top or with my list. I struggle with ULM. I don't think they've ever been 1 really at any level. But
yeah, this is by far the highest they've been for either one of us.
That's what I'm saying. I think, in my opinion, it was time to give them their respect.
Yep. Yeah, and before I get to an explanation on a few of mine, I do want to get to 2 comments. One from Instagram for Moore, got another one. And also it's funny because TJ Driggers over here on the one I can actually put on the screen is saying the fact that USA and Troy had the same officiating crew that was at the Georgia Southern and Marshall game being equally bad or worse officiating wise is insane to me. Yeah, there was questionable calls in that game. Obviously, we've talked about this in the wrap-up episode, which, by the way, if anybody missed that was a blast for me to host. Hopefully for a lot of people to listen. We had quite a bit of people download that episode, so I think a lot of people did like that. But that had the Jag Nation Radio versus the Troy boys. Yeah, it was fun. Yeah. if we can do that more often, we will try and bring that to you because it's a perspective that we don't often get to have when people are going kind of head to head, and somebody can kind of play host to that. In fact, Joe was trying to tell me that he thinks he gave me a new nickname, the Judge, after that episode.
Sounds about right.
I didn't quite put it on the screen because I wasn't sure how it would go, but. Yeah, AJ over here on the other screen for Instagram is thinking that it could be an interesting matchup when Georgia Southern goes up against South Alabama soon as well. So, yeah.
We'll see, man. We'll see. Georgia Southern is the kind of team right now. They're scary because they kind of control their own destiny, right? And they're also scary because you really don't know game to game what you might get. They're playing consistently well, right? Like they've been playing well. But you don't want to give them too much right now. But if I'm any of these top 4 or 5 teams, Georgia Southern, I'd be worried playing against the Eagles.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. Especially down there in Statesboro, we know the last time that JMU went down there as a ranked team. I think that was the last time they were there too, because that was 2 years ago. So obviously last year Georgia Southern went up, and actually JMU paid them revenge pretty well. They took care of them handily. But the last time that JMU went down there, they were ranked number 25 in the nation and got beat by the Eagles down there in Paulson. They have a propensity to beat ranked teams at home. I know the first time that they played a ranked team at home was a game I was actually in attendance for, as App State came in as the first ranked team to ever play in Paulson Stadium. And guess who won that one? Georgia Southern.
Yeah. So Georgia Southern came to App State when I was there, when we were not necessarily ranked, but certainly number 1 in FCS at the time. And they put it on us pretty good.
Yeah. So they have a history of it. So don't overlook them too much. Saying what's up to Dominic and Seth for joining us here. He's got his next head coach in waiting with Trey Lamb up on the board, as he's done every episode for the past 2 or 3 episodes, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, South Alabama does climb a little bit for both of us. I think they were at 8 or 9 for both of us, so it's nothing huge. I don't think you're going to get too much respect from where Troy's at in our rankings to jump too high.
Right.
A little. You said you weren't really dropping Coastal for anything they really did wrong. I was not impressed whatsoever again with that performance against James Madison. I get what you're saying though, because like we expected JMU to win type of thing. But I am kind of punishing them a little bit for that. Georgia Southern actually drops with the win again. Like you were saying on your side, it's more of a ULM jump than really hurting Georgia Southern. Although you've got to argue that Marshall's dropping in both of ours because they collapsed at the end and should have won that game really rather easily. Really,
should have won. Yeah, should have won.
21 unanswered points for Georgia Southern to win that one. Starts off with a safety out of the end zone because the quarterback Stone Earl throws it really, really deep with nobody around. Well, he was in the end zone when he did it, so that became a safety and started the downhill snowball effect in the form of Georgia Southern coming back with a backup quarterback of all things too. So I hated kind of dropping them in the poll because of that, but I didn't feel like they had a well-rounded enough game to say that they should be up. And I just was going to leave them where they were at. But again, ULM jumps them. Believe from my vantage point, Texas State also jumps them with a much more well-rounded game and victory that they had. And my top 2 stay the same with, like you said, Louisiana being the class as far as I'm concerned. They've been kind of the most consistent team so far to me. That Tulane loss isn't that bad. I think Tulane's a really, really good football team who would beat a number of Power 4 teams. I don't hate on the Cajuns for losing that one. I think that was a tougher matchup than their game against Wake Forest, which, I mean, they got guys thrown out of that game left and right with targeting calls, and they still beat them in Winston-Salem. So a lot of credit for that one. But Tori's asking, y'all both played at App State? No. In my dreams at best. But TJ absolutely did. A well-decorated and successful player in his time at App State. Well, decent. And Dayla already knows that I did not play. If you just look at the size of the muscles between me and TJ, you'll figure it out pretty quick. I might have been able to kick, not like as a starter, but maybe I could have been on the roster as a walk-on kicker, which never would have seen the field. I was a
Yeah, but if
soccer
you've
guy.
been kicking your whole life, most good kickers come from soccer. I mean, look at Brandon Aubrey for the Cowboys. Never
Yeah.
kicked football in his life until well, I guess he was with what is it, UFL, the UFL league?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, here's the easy thing for people to know from soccer to football that makes kicking really easy for someone like me. I took penalty shots or penalty kicks, as they're called in soccer, quite a bit, and I sailed a number of them through the uprights. It's really easy. All you have to do is lean back and do all the things you shouldn't do for soccer. You're able to do for football.
Right. That's it. That's exactly right. If you're watching and you're a kicker, listen to what Dom just said. That's it.
Yeah, just lean back and kick. I mean, it's a whole lot easier than the soccer ball.
I'm trying to
a
teach
whole lot
my
more
son
things to remember.
how to play soccer balls in the high 90, and I realize I'm not great at soccer. So there's that part.
Well, okay, we combine our skills, and we could be one hell of a soccer/football player. Although, my soccer skills, I mean, I wasn't like collegiate level soccer player. I started and played quite a bit in high school. That was probably about the extent of my ability.
Yeah, but that's better than me. You could do more for my son than I could in that sport.
That's probably about the only thing I could teach him how to do. Oh man, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I guess that pretty much wraps up the rankings for us. Any other notes you want to make? I mean, again, Southern Miss continues to be. I mean, at least with Troy, I feel like their defense has shown some improvement, kind of the same along with App State's, and their offense is dangerous. But I don't feel like I have either one of those aspects with Southern Miss right now.
Yeah, Southern Miss hasn't shown me anything that I'd be hard pressed to pick them to win a game the rest of the year in the Sun Belt, and that's sad to say, but I don't see them winning a single game. I mean, everybody, even with Troy and App State and Georgia State not being very good, and even ODU not being great, they've got a really good defense, but offensively they aren't great. What's up, OC? That's my cousin.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and but yeah, I don't see them winning a single game.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. They are last year's ULM this year, right? Like, I don't know. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
I don't see it. So we can get into our Week 8 preview here. As you can see on the board, the Troy has already been crossed out, which is great. They showed all that stuff around campus last night as that game was being shown from Mobile with all the T's crossed out. So, I mean, it kind of goes with the thing I was already doing along the way. But that game's already taken place. So that is one that, again, we kind of covered 25-9. We will move on to the Thursday night game. And TJ, did us a favor. I took a little screenshot from ESPN.
Oh, nice.
Yes,
I like it.
Total. So we got all the information up on the screen for those visually watching this one.
Yeah, if you're a betting man or woman, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we'll have that up. And obviously, I grabbed this earlier today to kind of make it as fresh as possible. I can't spend too much time doing it right before the show. So it may have changed slightly on like a half a point or so than what it currently is. But we'll just go with these numbers to make it easy for us. And more saying he loves Marshall's new mascot, though, Freddie the Falcon. I'm not sure I get that reference, to be honest. But
I don't either. I don't even know why. Anyway, whatever. Teach their own.
Yeah, he might have to give me a better explanation on that one. But this one kicks off tomorrow night. So we go from a Tuesday night to a Thursday night. It's awesome. It's full of Sunbelt action throughout the week. And like TJ said a couple days ago, what is it, 55 days straight with football? Is that what you said?
Yeah, 55 days straight, going all the way to the day before Thanksgiving so we've got, you can see football on behind me right now. There's a football game on and I watch them all. FCS, it doesn't make a difference. I mean, Group of 5, Power 5, I don't care. I'm watching all of the football. My son asked me today, he was like, Daddy, is there a football game on night? I said, there's a football game on every night. Are you watching it? I'm watching all of them. Do you know the teams? Not yet, but I will.
Yeah. And if you hear
UTEP is playing FIU on another channel right now as well.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, you've heard both TJ and I trip over like some of the names, like you're just rolling off. You almost said Alabama State earlier. It's because Alabama State has a team and they play. So It's like, yeah, sometimes you trip up because there's just 100 and whatever 34 teams or whatever at Division I. That doesn't include all the FCS teams, which is what Alabama State is. But let's jump back into this. So ESPN2, 6 Central. We've got a spread in favor of Marshall by 9 points, a total of 51.5 points expected on the board. As far as the betting sides are concerned, let's start there. I mean, are you comfortable with that 9-point spread? Do you think it should be more or less?
I think it should be a lot less. I think it should be probably closer to 6, 6 or 7 points. I don't think Marshall's 9 points better than Georgia State. That said, though, the Georgia State win over Vanderbilt is starting to look really good based on what Vanderbilt's done the last 2 or 3 weeks, beating Alabama. And then I think they won last week too. I can't remember. I can't remember who Vanderbilt played, but I think they're on a 2-game winning streak. So that win is starting to look really good. That said, though, I do think Marshall's wins are better, albeit, obviously they beat App State, Western Michigan, and then they beat Stony Brook. But their losses, Ohio State notwithstanding, but Virginia Tech wasn't a horrible loss. I mean, they gave up more points than I thought they should have, but it wasn't a terrible loss. I think overall, if we're looking at record, I think I'm picking Marshall to win, but I'm not picking them by much.
Yeah,
certainly not 9. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's the part I'm struggling with a little bit here too. I mean, had they won and not given up 21 unanswered points and gone on to beat Georgia Southern kind of easily in that regard, right? I probably would have been a whole lot more comfortable with a 9-point spread or more, actually, with what we've seen.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I'm kind of with you on Georgia State. Like the Vanderbilt win was great, but now they've got 2 conference losses. I mean, they've played. I don't know. I don't know if Vanderbilt would beat JMU or even ULM or even Louisiana. So it's hard for me to say for a fact that Vanderbilt is better than any team in this conference. So it's kind of a weird thing, though, because like you said, Vanderbilt is now having success and they clearly beat them at home. In fact, that was kind of like the Marshall game, really, except Georgia State was different because they held on in the end instead of losing it like Marshall did. But I mean, they had to fight back in that one. So, Vanderbilt beat Kentucky, who took UGA to the wire. Yeah, so it's
and thanks, Chris, for bringing it up because Kentucky beat or barely beat South Carolina, and South Carolina almost beat Alabama. So, like I said, the Vandy win is starting to look really good when you stack it up, right? When you're talking Vandy against Alabama, obviously the win. Then they beat Kentucky, and Kentucky beat beat South Carolina, who almost beat Alabama and lost to them by 2 points. I think it was 25-23 or 25-27 or something like that. So when you take a look at over just the last 2, just a snapshot of the last 2 weeks, the win over Vanderbilt is starting to look really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's disappointing for them that they don't even have a conference win yet. You know what I mean? Like
and that's the thing that you're holding against them. Yeah.
Yeah. So strange in that regard. But I don't know. Marshall's got that 2-quarterback system. I was listening to the Thundercast guys specifically one of them on the State of Atlanta podcast for Georgia State before this show started. And the fan base isn't happy about, the quarterback that got the start in the 2-quarterback system, Stone Earl, because of what Braylon Braxton had done the week before against App State. I think they thought you would roll in with him. I thought that they would also roll in with him, and they did not. They went back to Stone Earl, which, maybe he lost his starting spot more for injury than, because of bad play, which is also fair. But, oh, man, I don't know. When you put up that kind of performance and you're literally like the Sun Belt Player of the Week, I don't know how you go.
It's hard. I would struggle with taking you out. That's for sure.
Yeah. And when he came back in, mostly in this game against Georgia Southern last week, it was kind of too little, too late, type of thing. Braylon Braxton is your guy. I thought he should have been the guy coming into the season. And I've seen evidence that he should have been the guy throughout the whole season. Stone Earl's not a bad player. Don't get me wrong. I just think Braxton brings something to the offense that Stone doesn't bring, which is the ability to work his magic with his legs. We've seen Barnett do it for JMU. That's the aspect that cannot be matched by anybody else on that Marshall roster as seen thus far. So I don't, the X factor is Braxton playing a lot. I don't know if you continue to see this 2-quarterback system maybe they've learned enough from this last matchup to know not to run it. I have no idea, but I don't know. I struggle to think that they're going to get to the 51.5 points too. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, I don't see either offense putting. I mean, so I guess if you think about it, it's only 25 apiece, right? Or 26 apiece. So it's not like we're asking them to, score 30, right? I mean, neither offense have shown that they can be explosive. I mean, I don't know. Marshall, that like you said, that 2-quarterback system, I don't think it works. I've always been a fan of if you got 2, you got none. And I know I didn't make that up. Obviously, it's been something that's been around for years. But you take a rhythm away from a guy when you start flip-flopping quarterbacks and you don't allow a guy to chance. If he starts off the game and he's not hot, you sub him in the next series or two, or sub another quarterback in the next series or two. I mean, it kills his confidence. Then he goes back in and he's still not warm, right? I mean, now he's kind of basically starting from scratch. It's just I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Yeah, the only thing I like that this is a weird stat line. AJ Turner is the number 1 running back for Marshall. There is no doubt about that. He has half as many carries as all the other top running backs in this conference, yet he leads the conference in rushing yards.
Yeah.
But he's only got
is ridiculous.
Yeah, and he's only got like 2 or 3 touchdowns to his name, which is just insane. Like, are they going away from handing the ball off to him too much near the red zone?
They don't get in the red zone that often.
Yeah, I guess that's true too.
Right. So I mean, how many 40-yard runs is he breaking off?
Yeah, and he's had quite a few of those good ones. Right. So I feed that guy the rock more, right? Like the quarterbacks matter a lot less when you have a really successful running game. And if you have him and Braylon Braxton in your backfield, that's probably all you need. But, we don't make the decisions. But, that's my thought process behind that. Braxton gave Marshall their first full field drive in Polson and capped it with their first score. So why take him out? No sense. Yeah, okay. So there we go. There's a tidbit that I didn't have. Didn't get to watch that full game. But, yeah, I mean, yeah, you got to ask that question. But also full credit to Georgia Southern for that comeback, because absolutely incredible what they did there in that game. Speaking of comeback, one that didn't happen was Coastal Carolina on the field against JMU last week. This week, they have a really tough task as they go on. They host this one. Sorry, before I get too far. They host the Cajuns from Louisiana, who are coming in rolling, obviously. 4.5 point spread, though. Are you a little surprised? That one's low to me.
Yeah, that seems very low. I've got Louisiana by at least 10. I think they win kind of going. I don't want to say going away. I mean, 10 points in college football isn't a blowout by any means. But I do think that I think it starts out really well. But I think that in the end, they're going to do more in the second half than Coastal's going to be able to keep up with. I mean, Woolbridge is going to be. He's slinging the ball all over a lot. He's got 1,400 passing yards, 12 touchdowns to only 4 interceptions right now. I mean, I think he's really, really cooking. I struggle with finding where Coastal is going to stop Louisiana. And conversely, defensively, I think Louisiana's defensive front, those front 4 guys, I think they play really hard-nosed, tough football, and they're big on the edge. And they're fast, right? You're not going to outrun them to the sideline. So I think with those kinds of things playing against Coastal, I don't see Coastal doing whatever ESPN thinks they're going to do with this spread, because I don't see it at 4.5. I easily double it.
If you go by our power rankings, I mean, I think, we both have Louisiana 1. So at this point, I don't see how this is only a 4.5 point spread at all.
I guess, like I said, easily double it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I'd be comfortable with that, and I'd take that's a pretty good point total. But I probably take. I don't know. I might lean toward the over, just because I feel like what Coastal left on the field, they may be a little bit more explosive offensively. But like you said, that's going to be a credit to Louisiana if they're not, because this has got to be a better game, right? You can't play that bad 2 times in a row, you would think, especially at home.
I'm with you.
Yeah, just to note is ESPNU too. So another national televised contest there for the Sun Belt, and one game that did not happen many years ago with the COVID aspect, which would have been the championship football matchup. So, yeah, little extra storyline going into this one. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Ethan Vasco can step up and get Coastal back on track, because they were not that way against JMU last Thursday, almost a week ago by now. Wow, that seems like forever ago. That was a fun episode too for the people that got to watch that one. Okay, moving on. ESPN Plus on Saturday, we've got Texas State going on the road to face ODU. And again, pictured here, haven't changed. You got to find good picture of these guys when they get replaced. So that this Wilson's still the quarterback pictured, but it seems like Joseph is going to be the guy the rest of the way. But unfortunately for ODU, you've got a guy on the other side, Jordan McLeod, coming into town.
Yeah. I don't think this is going to be rather close. Listen, I give ODU, and we talked about ODU's defense at the beginning of the show. ODU's got a great defense. I don't think they can score enough. And the defense is going to wear down if the offense can't stay on the field, right? They'll start out hot, right? First quarter and a half. It'll get to 6-8 minutes left before half. They'll get tired, right? You get to be on third down and you can't get off the field, or, the offense is going three and out a couple times in a row. Eventually the defense just gets tired, and it's no fault of their own. It's just, and at this level, you don't have the rotation of a Georgia or an Alabama or Clemson or some. You don't have 4 fresh guys on defense that you can just roll in, right? Your top 4 guys, we talked about this before. Your top 4 guys are your top 4 guys, and they're those 4 guys for a reason. So, those things aside, I mean, the win against UTSA was absolutely outstanding. Obviously, they beat Troy. Troy's not great. We're talking about Texas State here. And then the win against Arkansas State was really good, 41-9. The wins that they've had are, now I say this, ODU that lost to South Carolina, we just talked about them a little bit earlier, doesn't look as bad now as what we thought it was going to be. Again, East Carolina looks decent, but wins to only Bowling Green and Georgia State, it's not enough. It's not enough. I don't think they have enough to do it. And Texas State by 10, I think is fitting. I think it'll actually be probably 12 or better. I mean, I see them winning this by close to 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, this one's tricky for me, because I think we've given a lot of kudos and congratulations to how this defense for ODU has played, and they probably could have been playing a little bit better had the offense been able to stay on the field a little bit longer.
Right.
Yeah, throughout some of the season. And they are seemingly taking better care of the football now, and they are scoring more points with Joseph at the helm. And let's just say, already he's thrown as many touchdowns as Wilson had throughout the early part of the season. He's thrown for 1 less interception. And he's just a bigger threat to run. He's now the 2nd leading rusher on the team. So again, if you aren't having success at the quarterback position, kind of talked about it with Marshall having some aspects that, you don't know who's the guy or whatever. If they can beat you with their legs, do it. Look what Ethan Vasco did last year when he first came in. He wasn't blowing up everybody with the, throwing it all over the field. He wasn't bad at it, but he just wasn't as seasoned as some of the other guys across the league. So what did he do? He ran the ball really effectively, and that's okay, because you don't have to teach that as much. I mean, TJ, talk about that for a minute. At the quarterback position, you've got a little bit more ability to be like freelance there. What kind of tool can that be to a guy who doesn't know the offense inside and out?
Yeah, I mean, if you've got an athletic quarterback, right, then you can kind of, like you said, ad-lib a lot, right? I know now, I'm not comparing anybody to Armani Edwards. Armani's completely different breed. But Armani's freshman year, he didn't necessarily have a handle of the offense, especially the first 4 or 5 games that he was put in the starting lineup. But what he did have was extreme athleticism, right? And so there was a lot of, called runs, and there was a lot of things that we were able to do with Armani that, if you've got a straight drop back quarterback, you're not able to do. So, in that regard, as it relates, to your point, when you don't have a great handle on the offense right away, and you use some of that athletic ability to kind of come in and take advantage of your skill set. So if you've got a skill set that lends itself to you being an athlete, you go be an athlete until you get a handle of what you guys want to do offensively. Go be an athlete. Go do what you are what you're capable of doing, and probably a lot of what you did in high school, right? Just go do that thing again.
Yeah. And I think it's fun for us to watch as fans too. Like on the fan side of things, it's like, yeah, I want the mobile guy. It's fine with me. Like I don't need a guy who's a Peyton Manning pocket passer right away. Like let him just excite us. And
let him. Well, listen, how it's no different than Lamar Jackson his first 2 years as a Raven, right? Everybody came in and it immediately started calling him a running back, right? Because a lot of and I was upset for what Harbaugh did with him the first 2 years. I'm like, let him throw, let him drop back, let him throw the ball, let him do what he's capable of doing. But what I didn't realize is they were letting him be himself until he learned what to do. And now look at him. He leads the league in two-time MVP and can throw the ball all over a lot. And he's great at reading defenses now because of his development and how they let him develop. So again, extreme example, nobody's Lamar Jackson, but it's one of those things where you use what you have until you learn what to do later.
Perfectly said. Very well said. Artie saying we need this road win. Keep the momentum moving forward before the ULM game. Yeah, that one's going to be bigger than anybody thought coming into the season. There's no doubt about that. Ben James had said, what's up? And he also wanted to know that he knows it's football season, but he wants to know when the basketball show starts. Very soon. We are working in the background with that and a co-host for that as well, because I did that a little solo last year, and it's not as much fun. I love the interaction, especially with a former player like TJ brings another aspect than just any other co-host. And we got a little explanation on Freddie the Falcon to go back to touch on the Instagram comment. Freddie the Falcon is the mascot of Atlanta. So I didn't know that, but that's what he's talking about, I guess, because they've taken over. I don't know. Again, maybe still not perfectly clear to me, but
it's still not clear, but we at least know who Freddie the Falcon is.
Yeah. And speaking of Falcons or Eagles, in the case maybe, the setup at Paulson again is going to continue to be electric. Unfortunately, a lot of those people ended up leaving a little early for one of the best finishes, if not the best finish in Paulson Stadium history, with a comeback versus Marshall. So, folks, when it's still reasonably possible to come back in a game, don't leave your seats early.
Haven't you learned by now? Like, haven't you? It's like, just sit down. Where do you have to go? You plan for this. Like, you turned the game on because you plan to watch it.
Yeah.
If there's 10 minutes left and your team's down by 14, just relax. Just unless it's trending or has been trending in a way that you don't see it ever. College football is very much different than the NFL.
Yeah.
All it takes is a play. All it takes is one play. I mean, that's Colorado. They did it like 7 times last year. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
I mean, and they're not the only ones. I mean, look at Alabama versus Georgia. Georgia almost did it to Alabama in the second half. I thought it was going to be a blowout in the first half of the game, the Georgia-Alabama game. And then Georgia just, I think it was like 21 unanswered points in the second half and almost came back to win it. So sit down. Just sit down.
Yeah. You've accounted for at least 4 hours of your day. Might as well just use them all.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you wait till the end and it doesn't turn out to be a close game in the end or whatever, you've let some of that traffic already get out. So just stay,
Yeah. Also, just drink another beer. You're fine. It's fine.
Unless you're driving and then,
Yeah. Or if you're driving, don't, or do, and just sit in the parking lot for an hour.
Right.
And then go drive. Let yourself.
Yeah. Your after game tailgate continue with no alcohol. Okay. I got an explanation on the Falcon. He's saying the Atlanta Falcons because they are known for blowing huge leads. So now it makes sense.
It took a long way to get there, huh? We took a lot of detail.
Yeah, I wasn't picking up on what he was putting down. That's partly my fault. I mean, I know the Atlanta Falcons, but yeah, oh man, yeah. All right, so yes, we've got that figured out. Okay, so back to this matchup here. We've got JMU favored by 9.5 points, a total of 58.5 points for the total points on the board for Saturday. That's not scary to me, the 58.5. I think it's
I like the 58.5. I don't like the 9.5.
I don't like the 9.5 either.
I don't like that at all.
I don't know. Now, and the other question here, it's actually not so much of a question. I think it's already been answered by now, but it sounds like JC French will come back and be the starting quarterback,
right? Yeah.
Even after the missed targeting call, the possible concussion. would all kind of coincided. I mean, you could go with either guy because we'll have a play when you do your play breakdowns, which we didn't do at the beginning for whatever reason. I guess I blew right through that, but we'll put that at the end here, and we'll see one of his throws that was just phenomenal in that regard. And I want to make sure I'm getting his name right. I think it's Dexter Williams. Am I getting that right?
The receiver?
Dexter Williams the second, technically. So Dexter Williams, yes. He came in and just he looked like a starter when he came in against Marshall and had that comeback. And like I said, one of the throws that we're going to have TJ talk about is a big reason behind that. But JMU continues to roll. They had the one setback against ULM, but I think most well-rounded team in the conference. Would you have any argument there?
No. I do think they're one of the most well-rounded teams. I mean, Barnett is absolutely out of his mind. 15 touchdowns to only one interception. And, we're at week 6. What is this, week 7, 6, 7?
It's going into week 8, actually.
Okay, going into week 8, which is, man, it's flying by. Don't slow down. But, yeah, I mean, I think he's playing phenomenal football. I mean, they're balanced, right? I mean, they're starting. I think Petaway is a starting running back. I mean, he doesn't have over 400 rushing yards, but they've also got a receiver who's got 334 receiving yards. So they're very well balanced in how they play football. They can come at you from a multitude of ways. Ask Carolina, they know. And they play pretty good defense, except again against Carolina in the second half, where they gave up 30 points, which was insane. But yeah, I mean, I don't. Again, the 9.5 that scares me. If I got to pick a team to win it, I think I would pick JMU. But if Georgia Southern won, I'm not shocked at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. The thing that would be a little surprising to me is that would mean the defense shuts down JMU's offense, which that's the part I have a harder time with. And that's where the 58.5 points don't scare me, because I feel like this could be a shootout where
I was getting ready to say, or because the way Georgia Southern's been playing offensively, they sling it all over the lot now. So it could be one of those things where both teams just puts up 40 points, and here we are.
Yep. And I mean, this game looking anything like the Boise State matchup to start the year down there in Statesboro would not surprise me at all. Just who can score the most, the fastest. I mean, it's going to be a crack. The only thing I could see is JMU's defense has been really, really stout. Again, that one game against ULM, notwithstanding, I don't know if that was just kind of an off night. I mean, obviously full credit to ULM for shutting them down, but I think a little bit of that was just not playing their best game. And that's why, going back to my power rankings for a split second, like I hate to put a team that lost head-to-head versus the other team above them in the poll.
Me too. I hate it.
But at the same time, to me, like I don't have that trust factor with ULM that I have with James Madison. Like against anybody, I would pick JMU as a more well-rounded team than ULM because the offense isn't quite explosive. Now ULM's trending upwards, just like I'm trying to think of the team I was about to say. Just like ODU, kind of getting better offensively as the season goes on. But it's not been a big jump. It's just getting there. So for right now, I just have a hard time saying I wouldn't pick JMU in that matchup 9 out of 10 times the rest of the way. So
I agree. I'm with you. ULM, I got to give them their respect. But I mean, again, back to this game. If I had to bet my money, which I would not do, but if I had to bet my money on this game, I obviously would bet it on JMU, not for 9.5 for sure. Closer to 3 points, maybe something weird, 24-20, something like that, or 34-30, something like that. But if Georgia Southern won by a touchdown, that would not shock me in the least, because it, like to your point, if that happened, then what would that would mean? That somebody scored 40 and somebody scored 34. Yeah, that's what that would mean.
Yeah, and I mean, here's the other aspect we haven't really touched on yet. Georgia Southern 2-0 in the conference right now. If they go on to win this game, by any means, whether it's a half a point, I know that's not possible. I'm just saying, if they win this game, they're 3-0 in the conference. They jump up to a big lead over there in the East, and they drop JMU to just 1-2 in the conference, which, after the start that they've had, would be shocking at this point.
Yeah, lots. There's a whole lot riding on this, more so for JMU. I think, and another reason I'm picking JMU is because they have to win this game. right? I don't think they have a choice in order to kind of be in that position at the end of the year where they plan for a conference title, that's kind of where their hopes are. They have to win this game. They can't go 1-2. It's not possible, especially with ULM doing what they're doing. Now, again, they're in the East, so it's a little bit different. I mean, in the East, you've got Georgia Southern, you've got JMU, and I think Coastal, I think, are the top dogs in the East right now. So Coastal's not awesome. So there's a chance that they could come back, but you don't want to go 1-2, especially in week 8.
No, can't do it. Chris is Falcons blue. You know, he's giving us the Super Bowl thing. Yeah. Once I had a better explanation, I got what that one was. Very well aware of that game. That was a Super Bowl party I left because it was so boring, and then by the time I got home, I'm like, "What happened?"
Yeah. That's one. So you're a prime example. Stay where you are. You planned on it.
Yeah. Well, there was a wife involved, and
that's fair.
I think she might have. I believe she may have been pregnant at the time, which is another aspect of that. So anyway, so here we go. We've got this one. I mean, A-State is struggling, and Ben James wanted to say that whenever we get to this one, he had a question that might be off topic whenever he gets to it. So if he wants to go ahead and ask that, we'll entertain that. But to start us off with the football aspect, A-State only favored by 7 points, a total of 55.5. This is dangerous, except for the point spread. I think I take Arkansas State to win this one by 7 or more. I don't know. Again, the couple of teams that are trending a little bit better offensively, Southern Miss is trending a little bit the opposite with the offense and still not getting it done, but the defense is actually trending up a bit. I mean, they had that relatively close game with Louisiana, who we've got as number 1 in the power ranking. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think the problem that Southern Miss is going to have is being able to stop. TJ, take this. Listen, I get it. I'm married as well. So especially if my wife was pregnant, I would not have an option. So I'd be out of there too. But back to this game. I think as much as we want to say Southern Miss's defense is trending up, the problem is going to be Jalen Raynor. And I think that they will not be able to stop him whatsoever, right? And I know Arkansas State has struggled, right, over the past couple of weeks. They haven't been playing very well at all. I'm with you, Ben. They win the next 2 games, quite honestly, but certainly this one. And I think they win by more than – I think they win by, honestly, 10+ wouldn't surprise me. I'm actually gonna go out on a limb and pick him to win by 2 touchdowns. Jalen Raynor is he's hard to stop, man. He really is. Everybody struggles against a quarterback that can run, but more specifically when you don't have the personnel that in Southern Miss they just don't. They don't have the personnel that can stop that. So I think, I'm betting on Arkansas State to do this by at least 2 touchdowns.
And I did look up because, again, when we do this week by week, I don't focus on anything in the future. But their next game after this one for A-State is Troy. So I think we would both agree that they will win.
Yeah. I had it pulled. So I'm cheating. I have it right here on my other screen.
Oh, you do? Okay. Gotcha. I did not. I had to pull it up just to make sure. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to say they win their next 2 games, so I know who their next opponent is. That's not a statement I'm willing to agree to just yet. But now I'm definitely more willing to agree. Although, again, that Troy defense, kind of like Southern Miss's defense, that's not the weak spot of the team. It's the offenses over on both sides that are struggling a bit right now. And in Troy's case, makes a little bit more sense with their starter, who's been so good when he has been on the field, at Goose Crowder, not being able to go and having to go with backup Tucker Kilcrease and the third string guy, actually, by the end of the South Alabama game, who wasn't getting it done any better, which, again, alludes to the fact that Southern Miss, where they had their starter come in, Rodmaker, and throw 2 picks, and then the backup come in and throw 2 picks. So, again, these are kind of mirror images when you're looking at Troy and Southern Miss right now. A-State definitely more powerful, like you said. I trust Raynor and Rucker to get it done. Rucker is a beast of a wide receiver. If he's not a surefire NFL draft pick, I don't know how he wouldn't be, because he's getting it done on a team that still hasn't been putting up tons of points, but he's getting tons of yards. So definitely be on the lookout for him as far as NFL-wise goes, and definitely a big factor in this game here specifically. So, yeah, I'm with you. I'm taking Arkansas State and the points in that one. I don't know if they'll hit 55.5, though. That's my question in that one, because I just don't think Southern Miss is going to be scoring a ton in that.
Yeah, Southern Miss, I don't know if they score 20. So what that means to me is that I think ESPN thinks that Arkansas State is going to score 35.
I don't know.
35 to 40 points. And I don't think it's impossible, especially with Jalen Raynor, but I don't see them scoring 40. I don't see them scoring – I don't know if I see them scoring 35, to be honest. So I would certainly take the under, but I take the under with the fact of knowing that I don't think Southern Miss is going to score 20 points.
No, I don't think they're going to score 20. I would, like you said, I'd question A-State scoring that many points, especially with what Southern Miss was able to do defensively against, again, the Cajuns already. So, yeah, I'm not sure exactly on that. But Ben James's comment was our thoughts on A-State men's basketball winning the Sun Belt. They are the preseason pick. We don't want to spend too much time on basketball till the basketball show. But I will say that me personally, and not to give too much away from the magazine release, but I have them as number one right now too. I don't know how you steal the best player from Louisiana's team, put him on Arkansas State's team, who went to the conference finals in the championship game last year, and not pick them number one. I don't know how anybody could not pick them number one with what they have coming back. So, yeah, I don't think there's even a question about them being number one in that regard. All right, so let's get into the part we kind of skipped from earlier, but get into one of my favorite parts of the show. Go! All right, so in this one, get this going full screen here. We've got a play from the Georgia Southern versus Marshall game. This is not the touchdown that everybody saw. I didn't want to bring in the clip that's been all over social media, but this play was incredibly important to get them to that point. This is a few plays. I don't think it's the play before, but it's 2 or 3 plays before the touchdown was thrown to take the lead in the end. And I'll let TJ take it from here. You're going to be watching the wide receiver up at the top of the screen here, and also the corner as TJ talks us through this one. Again, full speed first, and then we'll slow it down for us.
Yeah, so it looks like if you're looking at it, right, you see 2 safeties dropping back, but then you're going to see kind of a nickel drop over as well. So it looks like 2 to the boundary and maybe quarters to the field side. So what ends up happening is on the release, right, the corner, he's kind of sitting in that cover 2 stance, but what he tries to do is kind of fall off of that receiver that's trending, that's going on that out route, and tries to come up underneath the receiver, and he just doesn't get there in time. And it's a perfectly thrown football. It's layered, and that's what you call a layered type of throw, right? Like it's one of those throws where you go over a guy and in between 2 other guys. So you got to kind of layer that football just perfectly in order to get it in that window. And if you look at it, there's nothing fancy that he's doing. It's just going up and making a play. And like I said, the safety gets depth. So when the safety gets depth in this kind of a situation, what you're allowing your quarterback to do is have time. So it's a corner route. And so he's already outside leverage on, I guess, that safety or linebacker that's playing underneath him. And then the safety is over the top of it, but he just doesn't get over there quick enough. So it's a perfectly thrown football. And like I said, that corner doesn't come off of that flat route quick enough. So great play, great design, and even better throw. I mean, you got to have some cojones to throw that football. That's a very, very tight window to throw that ball, and even bigger kahunas to take that hit. So
yeah, and get up and run it back to the referee. That's incredibly impressive there.
That's high level football. That's knowing the situation is what that is.
Yeah, good point. Good point there. All right, the next play comes from Coastal Carolina and JMU. This was when the game was still close here in the first quarter, and mainly I told TJ I just picked this out. I love this play design, and I'm going to let him just kind of take it from here.
Yeah, so you're going to see what happens to a defense when they get caught off guard, right? So now you shift, right? And you don't give your defense time to get set. So pause it here. So already you've got a diamond formation, as they call it, by JMU out to the right. If you count, they're already outnumbered, right? Coastal's already outnumbered. You've got 3 versus 4 out there. Essentially, what's going to happen is everybody just find a guy to block, and your running back is going to run scot free. So you can go ahead and run the clip. But when you've got numbers like this, all you're doing is just saying, hey, go find somebody to block and go be an athlete. Go let my guys make a play. So this was a good play call, and not necessarily the play call itself was amazing. It's the fact that you don't give Coastal time to react. They can't react right now. I mean, look at that. That linebacker should be shaved or should be, moved over, shaded over a bit to kind of at least cover or account for that running back. He gets there, but it's way too late. So when you shift like that quickly, I know Kyle Shanahan does it a lot with San Francisco, and a lot of people that come from that Shanahan tree. I know his father talked about that running tree very well. It's a lot of motion. It's a lot of misdirection. This is more so pre-snap, but it's the same concept, right? Catch the defense off guard and get numbers. If you can get numbers, you can win football games. And that's what this was. So that was, again, great play call, but even better execution by and two, everybody's got to get set.
Oh,
so good job executing.
I told TJ I threw this play in here from the Troy South Alabama game. We haven't done enough defensive plays, so you're going to be keeping an eye on Scruggs right here, number 8, as he's going to come down on the blitz, and I'll let TJ take it from here.
Yeah, so so this play is kind of cool because it almost looks like he checked to a blitz after he saw a number 2 receiver go away. Right? So it looks like he's playing coverage. Now, I don't know. I don't know the play call. It could have been one of those things where he was going to blitz regardless, because if you take a look at his left foot, he's already kind of trending towards coming down anyway. But I think with that motion, it gave him that extra couple steps. Now, he could have been called offsides. It was real close to him being offsides. I think there's a very generous referee. But that said, it was kind of cool, the design of it, because it almost looks like, if you don't know their defense, he was like, okay, if that number 2 receiver goes away from me, I'm just going to blitz because I got nobody else to cover. So this was great defense, and even better play, right? Blitzing is one thing, but you also got to make the tackle. It looks like everybody jumped off sides. Go back.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's what I wanted to see one more time on this, because, like you said, it seems kind of well-timed, but then in another regard, it looks like the defense may have jumped to cause the offense to move first, which would be an offside call, right?
Well, if he wasn't in a neutral zone, you can do what you want on defense. But look at that left tackle. Check him out. I want to see if he moves before. Yeah, I mean that's offsides on the offense. So they actually got away with one, maybe. Well, I guess technically not, because he still lost 2 yards. I don't know.
I was going to say, like, the left guard moves like exactly at the snap of the ball, but it looks funny because both the guys on the defense are moving at that same moment. Like, I think the snap of the ball and his movement are faster than the rest of the guys on the line almost. I want to see it one more time.
But look at that right defensive end, right? I guess you can call it stand-up end, whatever you want to call it. He's going to jump. That's offsides on the offense.
Okay.
That's offsides on the offense. You can do what you want on defense, as long as you're not emulating the snap. Yep. And that was a missed call. But I guess it didn't matter if you're South Alabama, because the mission was accomplished.
True.
Loss of down and loss of yardage.
It's a good point. It's a very good point.
Yep.
One last thing to really wrap this up is going to be a look at the standings overall. And again, this is up to date with the Troy and South Alabama game final. So South Alabama jumps up above Arkansas State with that victory over Troy. Obviously, that's only so fair because Arkansas State hasn't completed their game this week. But right now, the current standings have them above Arkansas State, and Troy obviously drops. Again, we said it last week. Who would have thought that App State and Troy would combine for 0 Sun Belt wins at this point of the season, which both teams were only right, and both teams were only 0-2 in the Sun Belt at that point. Now both teams are 0-3, 0 for 6. between
And conversely, who would thought ULM would be at the top of the West?
Yes. Yeah. And 5-1 overall. It's not even so much that the West is, I mean, I guess it's all shocking. It's really all shocking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is how important this is over here on the East too. Look how many teams you've got tied at 1-1. That's how big this weekend is. That's
Listen, there's a lot gonna be determined with this Georgia State JMU game or Georgia Southern JMU game. A lot's gonna be decided here.
No doubt about it. There is. The one thing that's funny is a lot of the times everyone's been saying the power's been in the East, and look at this West Side this year. Look at the top 3 teams in the West Side without a conference loss. Now, are a couple of the teams that are bottom feeders in the West worse than the bottom feeders of the East, if you will? I'd say so. I mean, I think Troy and Southern Miss are worse than Georgia Southern or Georgia State and App State, to be fair. But I mean, I'd still put up just about anybody in those top 3 teams in the East to go up against people in the West and have a chance to win. I'm not saying they'd win every time or anything crazy, but I do think that they still stand a chance. And Neil's question goes along with that very well. Does Apps have a chance at all?
There's time. There's time to right the ship. I think being 0-3 in the conference certainly doesn't help. I mean, you've got to go undefeated in the conference moving forward, and that's gonna. I mean, I got to look at what their schedule is the rest of the way, and kind of give an idea of what I think they could do.
While you do that, I will say there's absolutely zero chance they compete for a Sun Belt championship.
Oh no, absolutely.
Yeah, the best to me they could hope for is to salvage a bowl game out of this, and it's
that's what I meant. I think that that was my interpretation of Neil's question. Is
you may be correct about interpreting it. He may already know that, but there's 0% chance that either side of the equation gets into the Sun Belt championship game with 3 losses. To me, there's just no chance.
No, I don't think so either. And let me take a quick. I know we're close to wrapping up, but let me take a quick look at what App's got the rest of the way. So we've got Georgia State winnable, ODU winnable, Coastal probably not, James Madison probably not, Georgia Southern probably not. So
yeah, that's going to be a tough road.
Yeah, I mean, so you're talking 4 wins, 4-8. That's not good. No. I mean, because I don't see us beating Georgia Southern, and I certainly don't see us beating JMU. So
I'd say the only thing I'd say about Georgia Southern, and it happens all the time, right? We've seen Georgia Southern not have a great season and go up against an App State team that was really good, but then for some reason they win. Like I feel like that's that rivalry, that matchup, and you played in it, is like the rules are out the window, the records are out the window. It's all about just who wants it more that specific day. So I feel like there's always going to be like a chance in that game. Whereas,
and you're right.
I agree with you.
You're 100% right. That said, though, they got to go 4-0 over the next 4 weeks to even get a shot at a bowl game. Yeah. I say no to that because they're not going to beat JMU. I mean, it's a good chance they won't beat Coastal. They'll probably beat. Oh, I'm sorry. They got 5 games left. So they got to go 4-1. They beat Georgia State, in my opinion. They beat ODU, in my opinion. Maybe. We'll see.
Right. I'm not as confident in that one anymore.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I said maybe. I don't know about Coastal. I don't know about James Madison. And if you want to say Georgia, so if they win 3 of the next 5 games, they'd be lucky.
I'd agree with that. Yeah. From what we've seen, I mean, I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, they do well to win 3 of the next 5 games.
Yeah, I don't at all agree with the portion of the fan base that says Joey has to go or not start or something. I've started to see that stuff.
Like, that's ignorant. You don't go from what he did last year to this. It's not Joey's fault. We're not a good football team. Period.
Right. And to me, like, Joey's trying to make some things happen. So yes, he's going to throw some balls. He's going to do some things that are questionable because he's trying to get the ball rolling. He's trying to get the offense going. He's trying to make some plays on offense. That's going to lead to mistakes on a team. So I heard it explained the best, and it's simplicity at its finest, but just bear with me for a second. On XM radio the other day, I forget who it was that was going off. I think it was the afternoon guys on the meathead radio, as they call it. But they were talking about teams and where they're structured at currently, and then where they could go up or down from there. So like you're talking about a great team has really good games, but they could have an average game, and a team that plays a really good game could get by them. Then you could have a team that's a good team where they could have some great games, but they could have some bad games, and that's where most teams are at, right? Then you have the below that, which is the bad teams, and they play bad, but they might occasionally play a good game and maybe get squeaked by somebody. I think App State is in that average, kind of team this year, right? Like they can play a little bit above their level. They can't play with Clemson. That's evident and obvious. They could have played with South Alabama on a different day, maybe. I still think they get beat, but they could have played with them closer if they had a better game. But yeah, I mean, that's the difference, right? South Alabama has that capability of being a good team that has a great game more often than not. Yeah. Whereas App's kind of the opposite direction of that. They're a good team or an average team that really has to work hard to have that really great game. Sure. And I just think that's kind of where they sit right now.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. App is an average team that can play great depending. And, a team like JMU or Georgia Southern or ULM or Louisiana is a great team that can play above that in some games. So,
yeah, CJ says his JMU Dukes are looking to continue to cook on the road. App State has had a lot to go on. It's there.
A lot of losing.
Next year. Yeah. Yeah, but I do. You can't even say they'll be back next year with the transfer portal and NIL. I don't feel like you can say. Look at ULM, right? Everyone thought they're going to be bad again this year. That's everyone thought that going into the season. They're going to be bad again this year. They got to rebuild from something that wasn't there in the first place. They're 5-1 and 3-0 in the conference.
Yeah,
App State could go through 4 years of losing after this. I don't know. I don't feel confident that you're going to have consistent rosters throughout the. You know what's funny? We'll talk. I'm just going to take this off the board because I feel like we're going to go off on tangents. And I put it on full screen instead of taking it off the board. What are your thoughts on this, TJ? Because I'm thinking that this makes a lot of sense now. So. Army and Navy are now ranked in the top 25 this week, right?
First time since, I think, 40 years.
Yeah. So are they at an advantage for the first time in a very, very long time because they have kids committed and are going to routinely be back on the roster the next year and can continue to build off previous success? They're not going to have the NIL aspect and the transfer aspect that these other teams have. They can still have it. I understand that. It's not like impossible. It's just it's not a free market as it is at App State and the Clemsons and the South Carolinas of the world. So do you think that this could be like an advantage to the service academies for the first time in a long time?
In a way, yes, because you get the same group for 4 years. That said, now there's so much parity in college football that I don't know that they stay that way long because you got to think about the conferences that they're in, right? I don't know that they'll be at the top of those conferences for a long time.
True.
Based on the trend. So the transfer portal does two things. It can help and it can hurt, right? Depending on the school that you go to. If your school sucks and you don't have a good coach and nobody wants to go there, then you're going to have a lot of good talent that's going to leave, and you're going to, unfortunately, have to replace that with freshmen. What the transfer portal does is you can sort of replace players that leave with players that are already good. If you're a team like an App State or JMU or a Texas State or whatever, right? Because you're a well-known program and people want to come play for you. Now, going back to your point about the service teams, I think this year, yes, it helps because they've got players that have been in that program for a while, but I don't think it's sustainable because of the transfer portal, because somebody else inevitably is going to be good next year that you did not expect. I didn't expect ULM to be good, right? But transfer portal helped them, and that's gonna happen. So I think this year, yes, it helps, but I think there's gonna be ebbs and flows, right? There's gonna be some times where you've got 12 seniors who have played together for 3 years, and that's gonna help. And I think there's going to be some times where you've got 2 seniors that are played together, but they also got 4 or 5 guys that transferred in that are playmakers, and that's going to help. So it's going to go both ways.
Yeah, I guess that's the aspect I didn't think about. Like Yeah, the consistency will be there for the service academies, and that'll be good. But you're right. You can have a team that's just a couple players away at a transfer portal at a Memphis, for say, and
Right.
then
Exactly.
that's different because they could have the depth that an Army or
Yeah.
Navy can't have. And honestly, let's be honest too. They're one-dimensional offensively. So if you can kind of shut that down, they're not going to be able to spring a comeback if you're ever up 20 or 21 points. Like it's not.
I mean, think of it this way: App is a defensive lineman away. Now think about all the defensive linemen that are at Clemson, that are backups, that aren't playing, that really want to play, that know they're good. They're a Clemson transfer away from being a really good football team this year on defense, right? Because all they need somebody that can stop the run. Well, you got somebody that's good enough at Clemson that's probably being a backup who wants to play and takes a $20,000, $40,000 NIL deal to go to App State because that's probably all we can offer. And now all of a sudden you've got yourself a run stopper. So the teams are a player away, and that's the advantage of the portal, which I love because it's no different than the NFL, right? I mean, you look at the Jets; they just acquired yesterday Devontae Adams. Are they a Devontae Adams away from being a Super Bowl contender? Who knows? I don't know. I know they got a really good defense, number 2 defense in the league, and they haven't been able to run the ball well because they haven't thrown the ball well. So now what Devontae Adams does is Breece Hall is now, it's now not the focal point because you've got a guy that's I do like Garrett and he's great, but Garrett is not somebody who understands Rodgers the way Devontae Adams does. Right. So, is App State of Devontae Adams away from being good on offense? Who knows, right? And that's the ebb and flow that you're going to have with this transfer portal, which I love because I love the parity.
Yeah, I think
a lot of words there. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was trying to think of the way I want to phrase you. Could you bring up the trade aspect? It's like, do we think we're going to get to the point where we have a trade during the season with this transfer portal stuff? But I think the school aspect will rule that out, right? You can't just we're not going to get to that point. Yeah, honestly, if we get anywhere close to that kind of stuff, just make the school sponsor football and tell these kids they don't have to go to school. If that's what you're
point,
it's a minor league system for the NFL anyway, right?
Yeah, well, and think about this. I mean, in other countries, there's no college basketball, right? They just play pro basketball at like 15 years old. And then when they're old enough, they either go to the NBA or they stay on that pro team for 10, 15 years and make the money that they make. So,
they also do like the academy stuff. Like, I know it's really popular for soccer, but they've started it with basketball and stuff too. Like, these kids are, for lack of a better term, like owned by these clubs. Yeah. And they come up in their academies and they also get like some schooling through it. It's not the same as this like college system here and all that. But yeah, they have like the rights to these kids from like really young. It's kind of like sickening to think about, honestly. Yeah. But some people like that model better than what we do here in the States, which is like.
Well, because at least they're getting paid.
Well, yeah. Yeah, probably the family's getting paid, in that regard. But it's also like, I don't know. Like, I guess the thing they compare it to here is like, for travel soccer specifically is the one I just know the most about, which is like, wealthy families can make these kids get on teams and play on these teams a whole lot faster and easier than kids who may actually be more talented but don't have the means to play on them, right? And the academies take care of that because they pay for all those expenses. So all you have to have in Europe is talent. It doesn't matter your background or where you come from, and that's the advantage. And that's there's a prime example. The World Cup. The U.S. is always going to be second fiddle in the World Cup because they don't do it the way other countries do in development by making it fair across the board from a young age to bring that talent in. It's kind of that way, I don't know, but I get football's a little different because so many like teams and clubs like offer you the equipment. So you should just be able to kind of be able to show up. Whereas a lot of the other stuff's like political behind the scenes. I don't know. You know that better than I do because you grew up with football where I did not grow up with football, but it seemed like in youth athletics, there's a lot of politics and behind the background.
Yeah. It is. And it's less of that with football because like you said, it's one of those sports where like, you don't really have to pay for your equipment other than cleats. You get everything else. I mean, sports like tennis and, soccer and especially travel baseball. I mean, a bat is $150. You don't get a lot of inner city black kids that are playing baseball at 15 years old on a travel team because they can't afford it. You know what I mean? They just can't. And paying for your hotels every night, and it costs money to do these things. I mean, AAU basketball, the difference is there's only 15 guys, so sometimes those teams and they can kind of farm the money and be able to get it in. But for the most part, there's a lot of kids don't play that are really good because they can't afford to. So football is not that way because you can't have a travel football team. You got to kind of play where you are, and that's where that to me is the purity of the game, in my opinion, for football, and that's why I'll always gravitate that way.
I like that aspect of it for sure. And Warhawk Report is letting us know JUCO helped ULM more than the portal, which is kind of like JUCO's I kind of group that in the portal, right?
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. I get what you were doing there, but it's kind of the same thing. It actually almost is exactly the same thing.
Warren Bowen, did you see where Steve Shaw changed a rule mid-season? Yeah, and TJ, I know you're well aware of this from that Oregon Ohio State game where they put 12 guys on the field. Were you aware of that rule change?
I wasn't aware of the rule change, but I was aware that he did it. And at the time, at the time that it happened, I didn't think he did it on purpose. And I was like, oh, well, it's really not that bad for him. That was my mindset, like as it was happening, because I'm like, oh, he gets to run off and they're not in field goal range, so this kind of works out. And then it was 2 days later, I find out, oh yeah, I did that on purpose. And I'm like, oh, well, look at you.
Yep. And NCAA.
I don't like Dan Lanning, by the way, but I do think it was a good use of the rule.
Yeah, I don't know if I know enough to feel any certain way about him.
He's kind of an arrogant little. I mean, he's kind of a prick, a little bit.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. I like we usually are on the same wavelength for the most part on those things, so I'll take your word for that one. But yeah, I mean, I think what did they say now? It's going to be the clock stops or the time gets added back in those circumstances now.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. That's the easy way to fix that, right? I mean, just say, well, hey, you could still do that for the play, but we're just going to penalize you and not take – we're not going to allow you to get an advantage on the field like that and an advantage off the clock to help you, right?
Well, the thing was Dan Lanning should have kept his mouth shut. When he went on TV and was like, oh, yeah, we're aware of the rules and we try and use those to our advantage and everybody should. And then, he essentially wanted credit for being a genius when really what he did was – put his foot in his mouth, so now that he can't ever do that again. It's stupid.
True.
He should have just shut his mouth and not want to get credit for. And that's the kind of thing that when I say prick, I don't necessarily mean prick. Like he's not mean, he's not a jerk. It's like he's really high on himself, and he needs to give himself credit when he doesn't have to. Like make people think you did it on purpose. Who knows, right? They asked you the question. Oh, I wasn't aware of that. It was just kind of a penalty. It was an accident on our part. We had too many men on the field. Whatever, you move on. Like, if you say that, we probably don't look at it as deeply as we did.
Right.
But you have to give yourself some sort of unwarranted credit, which, to his point, it is a genius way to do it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's absolutely ingenious, but you don't need to let us know. Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to tell us that.
All right. So since we're off, like, Sunbelt topics and just going football topics. So they've remedied this very quickly because they don't want another game to end like that. Perfectly executed, well done by the NCAA. They don't do those types of things often enough. And something that I'm going to bring up now, the fake injury stuff, when it's obvious. Obviously, there's sometimes when you're like, I don't know. I mean, maybe he really is cramping kind of. Yeah. But you can see a guy who's walking and looking to his quarterback and then the sideline once or twice, and then he just goes down in a heap, and you're like, dude, we know you're not hurt now. Yeah. Is there – as a former player, again, an aspect that we don't, like, is there a way you can stop that? Is there a way you can penalize that makes sense without being too little or too much? Like,
you can't. It's not possible because you can't gauge injury. You can't. There's no way. That's the one thing that you cannot. Like, I've heard it said a bunch of times. Like, I wish I could feel what he's feeling. Like, I wish I could put myself in his body so I can know how hurt he actually is. Because there's been times, like, I know Skip Bayless has said it a ton about Kawhi Leonard. He thinks he can play basketball when he can't. And he's like, I want to know how hurt you actually are. Is it hurt that you enough that you can't play or that you just don't want to play? And it's one of those things where you can't gauge it enough to know for sure if a person's hurt. Because there's been, I'll use myself as an example. there's been times where I have been writhing in pain, and it's hurt. Like I turned my ankles a lot. My ankles, I have really loose ligaments in my ankles, and I've turned my ankles a ton. And it takes me a minute or two to get myself back together. But once I'm back on the field, it almost looks like I never got hurt. So then you start to think, well, how hurt was he? No, it hurt in the moment, but I can just play now because it went away. It's kind of like biting your tongue, right? Like I bite your tongue and it hurts for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and then you get over it, and then you go on with the rest of your day.
Yeah, this is one that Dominic's bringing up a good point here. At the same time, address the injury. If they go down, make it that they have to stay out the rest of the drive. I don't like the rest of the drive, but I mean, if they go out, I do think you should have to stay out for at least a play. Like, even if you call timeout, whatever, no, you still can't come out the field. The problem I have with that being a fix is that then you just have a guy who's not as important go down. I don't know, obviously there's teams where that's not really the case because everybody's great.
Well, what you do is you sub in a guy who's less important, have him go down, and then he'd come out, and then you put your starter back in.
And then Dan Lanning tells everybody that's what he did and ruins it for the rest of them.
Right. Exactly. So.
But that's a good point. I mean, there's so many different ways, like you said, to combat this and just get around this rule by saying, no, he's really hurt. Like he got hurt in the previous play and he's realizing he can't go. And like you said, what are you going to say to that? You can't.
You can't make them show you x-rays. You can't make them show, you know what I mean? Like it's real easy to he went to some rehab this week. He iced it. He should be good going into next week. You don't owe us anything other than that as a report.
Right.
So, and you don't even owe us that, to be honest.
Yeah. I don't have a good one either.
There isn't. Unfortunately, there isn't one, and you'll never
think
like that out again.
Could you add some to the clock? Could you take some away from the clock? Well, then how much? And when is that appropriate and when is it not? Because
they already do that. They already do. You know what I mean? If it's in the half or in the game, and defensive player goes down, then that's a 10-second runoff unless you have a timeout. Right. So they already do that. The problem is when you do it when it's not 2 minutes left, and then it's like, well, we can't penalize you because you're not in the penalty time frame of the game. So who knows? There's no way. There's no way to get it out of the game.
Yeah.
And I mean, listen, I played football. We did it at App State a couple times. There was some times that we did. Every team does it.
Right.
I mean,
got to slow down the offense sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. You get your butt kicked. We did it against JMU at JMU. We were getting our butt kicked. I mean, they were going up and down the field on us. And there was a time our defense just couldn't keep up. We told one of our defensive tackles to just play hurt or whatever. And it was the funniest thing because I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to get him in trouble. I don't know that he can get in trouble now. But I'm not going to say his name. But we told him, as a defensive tackle, we told him to, obviously play like he was hurt. So he goes down immediately, and he just like falls down and he closes his eyes and he's like sleep on the sideline. On the field. So Jock goes up to him. He said, "Play like you hurt, not dead." It was absolutely hilarious because he looked like he just wasn't moving, and it was like, we didn't ask you to do that. We just said go down. Like he went down and he closed his eyes and he just looked like he was asleep. And Jock was like, "Hurt, not dead." It was. I don't know. Save that clip because I want to show that to Jock, and I want him to comment on that and kind of because he tells the story much better than I did.
Okay.
We
got to get him on at some point. I feel like he's going to be full of stories.
Oh, he's got so many of them. But that one in particular was absolute because I wasn't obviously on the field when it happened. Right. He comes, the next day we're back in our apartment because he was my roommate and he's telling us about it. And I'm like, what? He did what now? Oh my God, it was hilarious. So again, to the point, we all did it. Everyone does it.
Right. Oh, man. I don't think we can wrap it up any better than that one right there.
Shout out to Jack Roman. MLB number 40.
Yeah, or as the fans called him, Predator.
Yeah.
You guys didn't call him that, did you?
We did not. We did
Yeah, I was
not.
gonna
We
say.
called him a lot of things, but Predator was not one of them.
Oh man, yeah, he was an intimidating dude when he was out there on the field. I'll tell you that, with the dreads coming down like that.
Absolutely. Also, 6'1.5", 6'2", 240 pounds coming downhill at you. That hurts too.
Yeah. Him and Pierre Banks shared the backfield there for a little while, and that's
and then DJ
you not
Smith.
want to get hit by either one of them.
Yeah, DJ Smith either. He was a monster.
Yeah.
He went on to play for the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, for quite a few years too, didn't he?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey, there's another one. We'll add him to the list too.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to get him, Pierre Banks, on. We got to get Dre Legree.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he led the league. He led the country in picks the year I left.
That's right, man.
There's some guys. We had some guys, man.
Yes,
guys.
I'm telling you, people. There's quite a few people I think now that have said, "Well, of course, our latest FBS teams that have been really good could, are our best teams ever." I'm like, I don't know. I'm not so sure about that.
I know for a fact, no. The answer is no. I mean, we had 5 guys on our defense that went and played multiple years in the NFL. Corey Lynch. Yeah. We had Corey Lynch. We had Sticks. We had Marcus. Jason Hunter. We call him Sticks. Yep. Played with New England Patriots for a while. Marcus played with the Jets and the Patriots. DJ Smith played with Green Bay. Let's see. Dexter Jackson. He played Tampa Bay. Armani Edwards played 3 years in the league, in the NFL, and then another 10, I think, over in Canada. We've got
with the Grey Cup.
Yep. I mean, there's 2 guys. Let's see. We had a couple corners that one's now still with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. I mean, we had some guys, man. There's oh God, there's a bunch.
Was Kerry on the team when you were there too?
Kerry Brown, yeah, he went and played with, at the time, the Redskins, Commanders now. Only reason he's not still playing, he tore his bicep. I think it's the bicep or pec, and that kind of ended his career.
Yeah, I'd say.
Yeah, so I mean, it was Demetrius McCray. He played 2 years with the Jacksonville Jaguars at corner.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you think your best team now in FBS could play with us back then, you are sadly mistaken. We had NFL talent all over the field.
Yes, there's no doubt about that one. We got one more.
Some of which you are still playing in Canada. So,
yeah. Oh yeah, Quick played for the road. We forgot.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I was at Quick's first when he played with the Rams, his rookie season. I was in the stands against San Francisco. I was doing some work in California at the time. I was at his first the game he scored his first touchdown ever as a pro. Saw it live and in person.
Yeah, Quick was. Can you imagine if he grew up playing football? Didn't he just like not play football till like his senior year in high school or something like that?
Yep, senior year in high school. He realized he wasn't going to play basketball in college or go to the NBA in basketball. So he was like, I'll go try to play football. And just all he did was just catch go balls his senior year of college, and then came and just, played 3 years or 4 years in the NFL. No big deal.
Yeah. And let's be honest, he could have played for App State's basketball team the 4 years he was at App.
Oh,
right?
100%. 100%. He was better at basketball than he was at football.
I was going to say, I saw him at what's the gym name? Not the Convocation Center, but the
oh, you talking about the rec center?
Yeah.
Jeez, what a
Quinn. The Quinn?
At the Quinn, yeah.
Yeah. I saw
another guy who went pro. I forgot about Richie Williams. He played for Hamilton Tiger Cats over in Canada. So sorry. Yeah. Didn't mean to miss you, Rich.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. And yeah, I mean, I remember seeing Brian Quick do like between the leg dunks, 360 dunks, and I'm like, this guy should be. And like, honestly, App State is the school where that would be a huge thing. If your one of your star football players is now on your basketball team, I mean, you're filling up the gym with people wanting to come see him play both sports. Like, also, we see what Travis Hunter does on both sides of the ball in football. I mean, that's as close as we're getting anymore these days, I feel like.
Yeah. Another fun fact about quarterbacks: Armani Edwards. I watched him one time in jeans, a pair of Jordans. He had a belt on and a jacket, and he took 2 steps and did a right-handed windmill dunk into Quinn. That's the kind of athlete Armani Edwards was. Just so you're aware.
I did not know he was a basketball guy either at all.
Yeah. Jeans and a hoodie with some Jordans on that were untied, by the way.
Jeez.
And he took 2 steps, did a windmill with his right hand, and he's left-handed.
Right. Oh God.
Yeah. That's the kind of athlete he was.
Oh yeah, varsity gym. I don't think they were. You guys weren't playing in varsity by then.
No. They didn't let us play in varsity when I got there.
You just trained and threw up in the varsity before the Michigan game during the summer.
Yes. Whole lot of throwing up.
All right, man. On that note, I guess we'll wrap up this episode, man. I loved how this one ended. I love the breakdown.
A lot of reminiscing. You're taking me back, man.
We're going to load up the off season with some really cool guest features, I'd have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I got some. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was going to say the best thing would be if we had like 6 mics and we just invite them over to your house for a cookout and then just have story time, man.
That would be phenomenal.
I don't really have that many mics, but I wish I did. App State over Michigan. Yeah. We'll never let it go.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, great memories. Hopefully App State can get back to those. And in the meantime, for those of you who stuck with us the whole time, we appreciate it. And we will see you guys on the wrap-up show this weekend.